people like me. You need people like me so you can point your fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Okay, we'll start with this. It's fight week. It's fight week for Sandy Ryan, like it's fight week for Mikaela Mayer. It's finally here. The showdown between them set to go down this Friday
for the WBO title.
Talked about this fight many times already, that Sandy may be of the opinion that she can ragdoll Mikaela Mayer because she just ragdolled Terry Harper, a super featherweight who moved up in weight, like Mikaela's a super featherweight who moved up in weight, not realizing Mikaela's a bit tougher, craftier,
harder to get out of there.
What I think will be the prevailing aesthetic of the fight. Movement will be pivotal. Movement will be life for Mikaela Mayer, who's going to use her height and use her length to walk Sandy Ryan into straight punches as Sandy comes in. Sandy will be the aggressor and Mikaela will be the defender.
Sticking and moving and using the jab, bringing over the right.
Mikaela's not going to knock out Sandy Ryan. She's not going to knock her out, but she is going to light her up. She is going to tag her. The more experienced fighter of the two in high-level situations. Don't forget, Mikaela Mayer has 21 professional bouts to Sandy Ryan's 9. Sandy only has 9 bouts as a pro.
Experience goes to Mikaela. I think speed.
I think she's the faster fighter of the two. Faster hands with faster feet, more agility with home field advantage. Don't forget, this is a top-ranked show.
Mayer on points is the pick in what is a make-or-break fight for Mikaela Mayer. She has to win this fight. She has to win this title. If she doesn't, her future at Top Rank would be in jeopardy. And without a major promotional outfit behind her, well, things could get difficult.
Though I don't think it will come to that. I think Mikaela's going to win. I think Sandy's going to lose. What I think Sandy can do afterwards is move up to 154. That's a division that's ripe for the taking. It's wide open. There are already some belt holders up there, though none with a major promotional outfit behind them. Sandy Ryan would be the most familiar fighter, the most familiar face at that weight in a situation where she moves up there off a loss to Mikaela.
And she might.
Because I don't think Sandy's as good a boxer as Mikaela Mayer. Oh, she may be physically stronger, though not technically better. I wouldn't say that. I'd say that Sandy at times relies on her power and her aggression a bit too much, where Mikaela is a bit more cerebral.
Thinking man's fighter.
If Mikaela Mayer wins and the prediction sticks, she will be reintegrated into the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list. This would be the third reigning champion she won a belt from. The first was Eva Brotnicka for the WBO at super featherweight, then Maiva Hamadouche for the IBF. Now Sandy.
Sandy's got guts taking this fight. She must be really confident. She must really believe in herself.
To travel to America to fight Mikaela under her promotional banner and not her own.
She must really like her chances.
She is either very brave or very stupid for taking on this challenge, but I'm not complaining because I get to watch it. The virtue of taking on this fight all hinges on whether Sandy wins or loses. If she wins, she comes back a hero, but if she loses, then she was foolhardy.
If that seems fickle, this is a tough business.
So we'll be going head-to-head with the super featherweight contest headlined by Alicia Baumgartner and Delphine Persoon. I think it's safe to say that this show might eclipse that one because this show is happening on a major platform that most boxing fans are already familiar with, and that one's happening on Brinks TV. God bless Alicia. I'm a big fan of her, but a lot of boxing fans don't know that platform. They know this one. Just a refresher ahead of this weekend's action. Mikaela Mayer on points. That's the pick. And what will win her the fight is her movement, the effectiveness of her jab, and the efficiency of her output.
She's accurate.
Even if she's not the strongest puncher, not as strong as Sandy Ryan, she can tag her coming in with regularity. So I like Mikaela to win a points decision. And super lightweight news ahead of his rescheduled fight with Jack Catterrall. A lot of people think Regis Prograis is done. He's not.
Was it just a bad style matchup? A series of bad style matchups in the Zorrilla fight, and the Haney fight.
Or was that Father Time catching up to Regis? This 12-round junior welterweight contest represents a pivotal moment in Prograis' career, as many question whether or not the 35-year-old former title holder Prograis can still perform at an elite level. Benton, however, isn't concerned about the doubters. "We're just starting camp," Benton told Boxing Scene. "Nothing heavy right now, just working on the basic, floor work, pads. We'll start sparring soon and get into everything." For Benton, it's business as usual. It's back to work, that's all it is. "Nothing's changing," Benton said. "A lot of people think Regis is done, but he's not. Catterrall has everything to lose."
I disagree. I think this is more of a make-or-break situation for Regis than it is for Jack, because Jack only has one loss.
And it's a controversial loss. It's a fight that most people don't think he lost. The first Josh Taylor fight. Where Regis, he lost one to Josh Taylor some years ago, a lopsided loss to Devin Haney years later. If he loses this one,
He's in his mid-30s.
Benton said, "Honestly, I didn't think they being Team Catterrall, would take the fight. Prograis is coming off a tough loss to Devin Haney last December, a bout in which he was knocked down twice. That fight followed a rare training camp in Southern California for Prograis. Prior to the Haney defeat, Prograis delivered a lackluster performance against Danielito Zorrilla in his New Orleans homecoming and debut with Matchroom Boxing. However, he had been riding a 5-fight winning streak since his majority decision loss to Josh Taylor in 2019. In November of 2022, Prograis knocked out Jose Zepeda to become a 2-time super lightweight champion. Despite the setback against Haney, Prograis has made it clear that his goal remains to become a 3-time super lightweight champion. Benton, who has guided Prograis through some of his biggest victories, believes the 31-year-old Catterrall might have miscalculated by not pursuing a title after his win over Taylor in their rematch. A milestone for Catterrall. It'll be just like the old Regis, Benton promised.
I don't know that they can deliver on that promise, because this fight with Jack is not that dissimilar from the fight he just had with Devin or Danielito before him. This fight with Jack is a fight with a moving target that stays behind his lead hand.
This is not a guy who's just going to come to Regis and sit in the pocket with Regis looking to throw combinations. He's going to employ a similar strategy to Devin, to Danielito, and we saw how Regis looked in those fights. Did he learn anything?
Because if he didn't, it's just going to be a three-peat.
After some difficult nights in the ring, Prograis is eager to show he remains a top contender in the division. Benton is confident they'll see a different Regis on October 26th. He'll be back on top.
How are we going to see a different Regis if Benton just said they're not changing anything?
How are we going to see a different Regis when he said it's just back to the basics and another day at the office? How are we going to see a different Regis? Because we need to. That is, if he wants to win. What he has to change. Double, triple up on the jab.
Keep the pressure on, close the distance, bring other punches over, throw combinations. Be busier.
And cut off the ring. You have to cut off the ring. Against an outside jabber that's moving lateral, staying on the perimeter of the ring, you have to close off his exits.
I don't know that Regis can. It seems to me that the winner of Prograis versus Catterrall is on a collision course with the winner of Barboza versus Ramirez. Arnold Barboza versus Jose Ramirez is set to go down on the undercard of Zurdo Ramirez versus Chris Billum Smith. Arnold Barboza is currently ranked at number 1. Jack Catterrall is ranked right behind him
at number 2. The current WBO champion at this weight is Teofimo Lopez, but it doesn't look like he plans on staying there or unifying titles or doing much of anything else at 140. Should that title go vacant,
and it might
go to the winner of Arnold Barboza versus Jose Ramirez, or the winner of Barboza versus Ramirez might fight for the newly vacated title against the winner of Catterrall Prograis, whoever it is.
That's how it's looking.
And that's not a bad run of fights, by the way. That's not a bad series of fights. If all these guys are mixing it up at 140 pounds, that's what that division needs. Back over to Prograis versus Catterall. Regis Prograis is a boxer puncher, a counter puncher, with the same limitations that you see in Teofimo.
He's good off the counter when he's hanging back, though coming forward, he's not as good, not as capable. That's what he needs to work on, because Jack is going to hang back. Jack is going to stay behind his jab.
Look to draw you in so he can counter you. Both Jack Catterall and Regis Prograis are southpaws, so neither man will have that advantage over the other because sometimes it can be an advantage.
Being a southpaw, but not here since they're both southpaws.
I do think Regis has enough power that he could hurt Jack Catterrall if he lands, that he could knock out Jack Catterrall if he lands. The trick is landing, getting close enough to land, getting close enough to him to let those power punches go. That's where the trial is for Regis.
And don't forget that it's in the UK.
Jack Catterrall will have home field advantage. Regis is going to be the away fighter in this one. So it's an uphill battle for him. It's not a great stylistic matchup. He's going to be the away fighter. He's the older fighter of the two.
It's an uphill battle.
Knocking out Jack Catterall would go a long way towards convincing the boxing world that Regis is back. He's all the way back, and he's still got it if he does that.
Jenna.
Easier said than done. We'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches. And finally, in super middleweight news, an unexpected bit of news because I didn't think Jaime would fight again this year, but apparently he's going to be returning to action later on this year, December 14th, south of the border against Ronald Gavril. Ronald Gavril, you might be familiar with that name. That's the same Ronald Gavril that David Benavidez fought 2 times many years ago for what was the newly vacated WBC title. Now Jaime is fighting him.
Jaime literally fought 2 or 3 days ago.
On this side of the border against Canada's own then unbeaten up-and-comer Eric Bazinian in what was a fun fight, a fun-spirited fight to watch, competitive, very competitive in spots.
So much so that I wouldn't mind seeing Eric Bazinian mix it up with some of these guys because he gave a really good account of himself.
What we saw was what I anticipated, that Jaime would be looking to brawl, Eric would be looking to box, using the jab, moving around, setting up his punches, the usual.
Some durability at the start. Jaime did a good job of grinding this guy down. A lot of success with the body work. If you saw the fight, you will have noticed that Jaime was landing body shots with some regularity, which I think made a big difference. It seemed like Eric was taking the head punches all right. He took the head punches just fine, but the body punches were particularly damaging, and Jaime was landing those body shots, mixing them into his combinations with some regularity, and landing them with some regularity.
Eric did a decent job of fighting Jaime off whenever Jaime was coming on and throwing punches in bunches. Eric did a good job of battling back, but the toll it took on him.
It was a step up in class for him.
Having somebody push you that hard, push you that much in a contest scheduled for 12 that Jaime ended in 10.
Not bad.
It was his first fight back with Eric Morales in his corner. He's not being trained by Freddie Roach anymore, and that did raise some concerns, at least for me, because I liked what I was seeing from Jaime under Freddie Roach, and I wondered if he could continue that if Eric is back. He didn't look bad.
Good rounds, good fight.
That he didn't wait a year and a day after suffering his first professional loss to Canelo to come back to the ring, that he came back in a jiffy, and now he's on his way back again. He's going to be fighting Ronald Gavril. Ronald, who sports a professional record of 25 wins with 3 losses, no draws, 20 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 28 professional bouts. This is the guy that David had to fight twice for 1 decisive win, David Benavidez.
This is who Jaime is fighting now.
We haven't seen or heard a whole lot from Ronald Gavril since he lost the rematch to David Benavidez, but he has been active. He has been fighting, quietly keeping busy in the background of the bigger shows and the bigger fights.
He fought 2 times last year, and he's already fought once this one back in May. He'll be returning to action in December if these rumors check out south of the border against Jaime.
38 years old, from Romania. I haven't seen Ronald fight in a while. It's been a long while since I saw him in action. But from what I remember, he's got good size for a super middleweight. He's not a little guy. He's strong. He's definitely strong. Strong enough that he knocked David Benavidez down for the first time in his career. That's his claim to fame. He sat David on his back pocket, strong enough that David needed 2 fights for 1 decisive win over this guy. Both those fights were competitive.
He's strong.
Durable, too. Hence never being knocked out in 28 professional bouts. 2 of them being with David Benavidez, so the guy can hold a shot and he can give one.
I like the fight. I think it's going to be fun to watch.
What reads as a keep busy fight for Jaime Munguia. They're doing their best to keep him busy. We often talk about the importance of activity for a fighter. To keep the fighter sharp, you have to keep him active. But as well as the fighter's marquee value, that if the fighter's fighting on a regular basis, that every other month you're hearing some new fight news about the fighter that keeps him talked about, that raises the fighter's profile.
If this news checks out, Jaime will have fought 4 times this year.
Almost nobody in boxing, no established name in boxing, is keeping a schedule like that. 4 fights in a single calendar year. The only fighters fighting that frequently are prospects fighting in developmental fights. Not established fighters, not established names like Jaime. 4 fights in 1 year. 3 of them on this side of the border, and the next one happening south of the border in Tijuana. Allegedly. It almost harkens back to the days of Julio Cesar Chavez, where in between the bigger fights with the bigger names, he kept really active with whoever was around. He kept really busy. It's almost like they're trying to duplicate that with Jaime, and it's a good idea to have him fighting on both sides of the border, in the United States and Mexico, as the Mexican fight fan is the lifeblood of American boxing these days. They're the ones that spend the most money.
Why do you think Canelo's so popular?
Get a real organic buzz going, a real organic grassroots following fan base with this strategy. The boxing fans in America and the boxing fans in Mexico, as opposed to the manufactured buzz they've been trying to build for David Benavidez by telling everybody that he's the Mexican monster when he's not a Mexican national.
He wasn't born there.
It's not full-blood Mexican for them to try so hard to capitalize off the Mexican fight fan. You know, a long time ago, I had Steve Kim here on the channel, and we talked about how after Canelo Alvarez is gone, the world of boxing might be hard-pressed to find another star to fill his shoes, a star who could take his place. And I made the recommendation that that star could actually be Jaime Munguia. He's a likable kid outside of the ring, isn't arrogant.
Inside of the ring, he's got a fan-friendly style that's easy to digest. For a boxing fan, for anybody looking for action, Jaime delivers that.
And you may be thinking to yourself, Jaime doesn't have Canelo's boxing brain. Does Jaime have the ceiling that Canelo has? And look, a lot of people didn't think Canelo would become the face of boxing after he lost to Floyd and struggled with Lara, but fight by fight, he got better. He used those struggles as a learning experience. The same thing could happen with Jaime, where even if he doesn't become the, according to Hoyle, face of boxing, he can definitely become one of the faces, one of the stars, because from where I'm sitting, he's the biggest name at super middleweight, second only to Canelo.
He's the money, second only to Canelo. Many of the biggest fights that you could hope to make at this weight involve Jaime, whether it's Edgar Berlanga versus Jaime, Christian Mabili versus Jaime, Diego Pacheco versus Jaime,
Caleb Plant versus Jaime Munguia. Now, fights between them, those could be decent-sized fights too. Solid fights, but not bigger than they would be if they involved Jaime.
I think Jaime's star is rising.